Just after Christmas was when I had my first episode of my heart problem. So I woke up in the middle of the night, everything was on fire. Chest, arms, throat. So I take some Motrin, and then it's like kerosene. I feel like I'm dying. If this is the end, I mean, what am I doing crying about it? Nobody wants to die, right? I mean, sure, people want to go to heaven, but what if tomorrow you only woke up with what you were thankful for the day before?
Yep.
That's a scary thought. Did you take the moment to be thankful for everything?
That's a great question. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Your Story. We're here with one of my great friends and industry leader, Andrew Werkheiser, at his beautiful home in Atlanta, Georgia. Andrew, thanks for having us.
No, thank you.
So give us a little family dynamic. I know, I've met your dad and I met your older brother. You have a couple cool, other siblings too that were brought into your life at a younger age.
So I've got one biological brother, and then two adopted brothers and an adopted sister. So all three are from Russia, and my mom really wanted a girl. Basically, back then it was VHS tapes. So they would send you, I think, like 5 VHS tapes at a time of the kids. So each tape was a kid. We would go through these, and finally my mom was like, I don't think we're ever gonna get a girl. And so we start going back through everything and fall in love with this boy. Yegor was his name at the time. Now he's Aaron, and now he can't adopt any kids from Russia as an American citizen. But back then you would basically visit twice, and then the third time you were able to bring them home. So the way that it all worked out was really, really cool, because it was the second visit. We just got this girl in, do you want to see her? She's a day away from being old enough to being adopted. So of course my mother was like melted and was like, yes, absolutely.
This is over in Russia?
In Russia.
Wow.
Nina Kruchina Vladimirova. Now Grace.
A little easier.
So my mom looked at my dad and she's like, all right, well, I guess we're coming home with 2 kids. Brought them back. My parents stayed really involved with the agency and helped a really awesome group that would bring host children. We hosted this boy named Zhenya a couple of times, and he was awesome. And my parents finally were like, we have to adopt this kid. He's just phenomenal. They asked him what he wanted his name to be.
What did he choose?
He wanted his name to be David Beckham Werkheiser. So they said So he ended up with Michael. I can't remember how Michael came about, but he ended up with Michael, and his middle name's David.
Cool. So, all right, so you grew up, basically went from 2 to 5.
Yeah.
You grew up, and your dad was a big businessman, which had a huge impact on your life, I know.
Basically, when they came down to Georgia, they were my whole family's from Pennsylvania. When he came down, he was working for a company called Axo Nobel, massive paint manufacturer. They decided to leave and start their own thing. There was a foreign paint line trying to come over into the U.S. My now father-in-law was one of those guys, and they jumped in and took it on and grew pretty quick. PPG realized we're getting our rear end kicked, so they bought ICI. But that was basically the line that they took over, and back then PPG was very much like Sherwin. They didn't have distribution. The thought of a single source like my dad had started was unheard of to them. So they helped buy back all of those locations, plus another 5, 10, 15, just over time. By the time it was all said and done, it was 75 stores and 30, 40 vans on the road, trucks on the road, full mobile stores, and just explosive growth.
And you and I grew up very similarly with our father success, much like Chris and Kyle have as well with their father success too. But it's cool watching the success. But how has that impacted your life too? Because now you're surrounded with all these big time opportunities.
It was just a different dynamic of like trying to learn and understand all that, because when you're young, you don't really realize.
Yeah.
It took me to the end of high school and college to kind of really put the pieces together of like what he had built and what the team had built and what they had gone through. I mean, it really took me being older and living through some work life to get that. So as I was starting to apply for college, I realized I really liked a small community. And my mom was like, you're applying to Mercer. Never heard of Mercer, never heard of Macon, Georgia, which is only 2 hours south of Atlanta. But so I apply, I get accepted. It's a little bit of scholarship money. Then I get called for an interview. My dad took me, because my parents were like, you're going. And I was like, I don't even know what this is for. They're like, it doesn't matter, you're going. So I ended up with the dean of the business school at the time. Asked me 3 or 4 questions. That was it. 2 days later, the phone rings. My mom was like, what? Okay, he's right here. And she's like, it's for you. I was like, what? She's like, it's Mercer. I'm like, and so I answered the phone and I'm like, well, Andrew, we've decided to give you the presidential scholarship. And I was like, well, what is that? And like, it's a full ride. Plus books, plus room and board, plus, I mean, everything. If I can go somewhere for an entire semester for free, why wouldn't you give it a shot?
Yeah.
So I went, and it was the best place that I ever ended up in, and it was perfect. It's just a beautiful place. I mean, it's where I got my EMS start down there. They trusted in me and gave me a chance to run a truck in a family-run business and running the entire north end of the county, and it's part of who I am now. So we're at Lumpkin County Fire Station 6 in Dahlonega, Georgia. Actually, believe it or not, it was when I was working at a summer camp as a kid. We had to take first responder courses. It was technically supposed to be like a first aid class, but I took a first responder class by accident and fell in love with it. You learn pretty quick that it's most places, especially in Georgia, the fire station is the one that, gets the 911 call first. Usually has an ambulance, but obviously there's private services too. It kind of was a natural interest to want to be a part of the fire department as well, because it kept me involved with medicine. Yeah, this is all completely volunteer, so we're required basically 24-hour minimum each month. No matter what you see and how gruesome it could be, or uncomfortable it could be, what keeps at least me, and everyone's different, everyone has a different reason. Of course, serving the community is a big part of it for me, but there's something to be said about helping someone on their absolute worst day, getting to tell them that you've done it before and it's going to be okay. And of course, there's ones that don't work out, but it's that's at least what keeps me coming back. These are scary. These ones there's a lot of water weight in there, and they especially up here in the mountains, it's very tippable, if you will. I like to stay in the ambulance and the rescue trucks, the smaller ones, but either way, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. I always say, I want to retire and push the stretcher until I'm the one on it. So it's something I want to be a part of as long as I can, and as long as places like this let me. And maybe one day it'll be my real job instead of the weekend or evening hobby, if you will. Personal life, without a doubt. I mean, the biggest lesson here is it can be gone in a second. You don't know when that call comes, and it's an address that you know. And that's probably the greatest fear in this. Aside from that, the not forgetting about who those people are to you, and whether it's picking up the phone or spending an extra 5 minutes with your kid before you leave for work, it's an eye-opener, and we don't know, and we'll never know when it's coming. For me, that's by far the biggest lesson for family. It was February 2010, just after Christmas was when I had my first episode of my heart problem. So I woke up in the middle of the night, everything was on fire, chest, arms, throat. I picked up the phone and called my mom, and she's like,
oh, you're a freshman at this point.
Mm-hmm.
First semester.
Mm-hmm. Second. So she's like, you mean to tell me we've paid for all this training for you to understand whether to tell someone to go to the hospital or not, and you can't decide for yourself?
Because you already went to the EMS side.
To the first responder side, yeah. She's like, take some Motrin and we'll figure it out. Okay, so I take some Motrin, and then it's like kerosene. I feel like I'm dying. So I jump out, wake my roommate up, who's my fraternity brother. He drives me to the hospital, sit down, they run some blood work or whatever, and I'll never forget. It was like an Arnold Schwarzenegger dude.
Doctor?
Oh yeah. He walked in, he was like, Andrew, we found enzymes in your bloodstream that lead us to believe that you and your heart are dying. That's it. Shook my hand, got up, walked out. So I'm like, okay. I feel like I've lived a pretty good life. Like I kind of accepted the fact that this may, be the end. But I mean, yes, things flashed or whatever, but it was like a weird comfort that I can't explain to this day. Nobody wants to die, right? I mean, sure, people want to go to heaven, but it was terrifying. And I busted out into tears as soon as he walked out of the room. Called my parents and shared what I explained the best I could was the news. But I kind of took a breath afterwards. And if this is the end, I mean, what am I doing crying about it? I should at least sit up a little bit and enjoy it and try to find the light and stuff, right? So trying to get in touch with people.
Were you at peace with it?
Yeah, it was weird. It was
especially
unexpected.
At that age. Were you even 21? Were you 19?
18. They ran more blood tests, and a nurse came in, and she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, well, don't know if you heard the news. I'm dying. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, check it. And she goes flipping through, and she goes, you been praying or something? And I was like, oh yeah. It's like minute one. She's like, you ain't dying today, baby. That's how I found out I wasn't dying that day.
All right, so let's get to the end of the story. What the hell was it?
It's called myocarditis, which is basically a virus that any one of us can get. And when you get it, there's a trigger in the environment that when you come into contact with it while you have the virus, it shoots it to the heart. And then basically your heart inflames, becomes the virus itself in a sense, and your body attacks the virus, which is attacking your heart. Let's just call it even. Let's say there was 10 viruses. Growing up, I could have had 9 or 8 of them. And the 9th time I had it, I came into contact with a trigger that sent it to the heart and turned it into myocarditis. So, because you can only get a virus once. So I may be done, I may not, you don't know. A year and a half or so later, when I went to Australia, as soon as the plane landed, it was right back to the same symptoms and same experience, and figured that I was having another heart attack again. What they assumed at that point was it was large cell myocarditis, which means it's embedded forever. Almost every virus you'll get will flare it back up until you need a transplant. At the end of the day, it was a miracle. It was not large cell. It was just a separate second strand of another virus that led to the same thing. What was so impactful and interesting about the second time was I didn't have anywhere near the feeling of the first time. I was terrified. And it's a common saying. I mean, what if tomorrow you only woke up with what you were thankful for the day before?
Yep.
That's a scary thought. Did you take the moment to be thankful for everything?
That's a great question.
I have fought every day to make sure that I wouldn't regret the time that I put in with my wife and my kids. It really reminded me of what the heck I was missing out on, and the little pieces that I forgot about, and reset life in the best way possible. After that, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go try business for a while. Went to work for my dad's company and moved up to Roswell, and it was awesome because he kept everything very separate. I only reported to their president. I started there literally in delivery truck, managed a warehouse, ran a few stores, ran a region, ran an area, and then the president tasked me with starting a division. As that whole thing developed, my father and partners and everything, they decided to sell. I took that tough decision to say, I think there's an opportunity here to where somebody really needs help. It was a company that was failed originally in the US. It got to the point where I thought I was comfortable, but I wasn't anymore, and reached out and said, hey, look, can I help? It worked out to where for 3 years we grew that company 7,000%, and had a blast doing
7,000%?
7,000 from the year before revenue to the end. And it was incredible. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people, one of their first questions is, how do you pronounce chemie? The KC is obviously from chemie, and then the X stands for the experts. That's always been a part of our brand identity. We've done the work and the research and taken all of that time to really truly understand what works together and what works best. Presence in the States is very positive and very strong for the work that we've done so far. Of course, the country is a massive country. It's the second largest automotive market in the world. So it takes a lot of time and energy, but for our start, I'm very confident that our team's done an incredible job so far. Our products are incredibly efficient. That's the whole point of them. It's a system, and even just from the very beginning, where the colors of the actual labels are dictating what that product is, whether it's an alkaline or an acid. Further than that, there's even the pH right there on the bottle as well. So just from step one of looking at our product, the information that you need is directly on that bottle, and of course there's a little description on the back. The whole point of this business for us is to help efficiency and to make things more clear, so that when you step into our product line, it starts to feel like home very quickly. And as you grow your business and have more people involved with your business, it's easy for them to pick up and understand exactly what is used where and how, and certain things that have a little bit of a warning that maybe it's not the best thing to use on a certain surface. The guys that show up in the vans we refer to them as ASMs, or area sales managers, and those guys are truly prepared for the job. They are not just someone we throw on the van and give a point of sale and tell them good luck. They go through a fully intensive chemical training, brand identity training, everything through Germany, of course, as well as our team here that stays very involved through that process. The important thing is that we take the time to educate our people properly, so that they can provide the correct solution and not just sell their favorite 5 products. We want them to be fully understanding about our line and what those solutions can do for shops.
We're here at your family's winery.
Yep.
Kaya.
We were lucky enough to acquire this a few years back out of unfortunate foreclosure from someone else, but we were able to turn that around and put a whole picture together out here and acquire another property down the road. And I mean, we fell in love with the view. That was the first thing. The thing they did right was put the building in the right spot. Met again with some architects, and I kind of pitched my dream and vision for what this should look like, and they thought that they could do it, so they went to planning and drawing, and a long process, but here we are.
Why are you drawn to these big roles? I mean, you're constantly putting yourself out there.
More than anything, first and foremost, it's fun. And part of that, I think, is the challenge, too. Makes it fun. A whole lot of life can start at the edge of your comfort zone. You have to ask for things in life, and I think that's where a lot of people, fall short of where they could be big time because they just don't ask. Both of the roles in this detail industry came from nothing more than asking. I wanted the honor and the opportunity to help a company grow in the U.S.
You had the self-belief that, you didn't have all the answers taking these roles, right? But you had the self-belief that, I will figure it out. And if I can't have the answer, I'll find some people around me that can help.
That's the biggest thing. And it kind of blows my mind in this world too. It's so easy to find those people when you're a detailer.
Most people who are, that you'd look up to in that type of role, they're going to be super willing to share and mentor. It's a real honor. I know I love when people ask me stuff.
Yeah.
We both have dads that we can turn to for mentorship, and that's been really meaningful to me to be able to learn from my dad. I'm assuming that you've been able to learn a lot from your dad as well.
Yeah, tons. And I can't tell you how many times a week call and just run something by him, and yes, I'm blessed, I'm lucky. I know that I'm in a position where, and you too, where a lot of people aren't. I mean, he knows our sales figures. It's basically it's a free consultant at the end of the day.
The best.
It's just that notion of looking at what my dad did, and I'm standing on a balcony of a party that they had when he passed 215 million in sales, and looking at him and going, honestly, because of course to me, he's Superman, right? Of course he thought he'd be there. It wasn't soon enough, but I asked him, I said, did you ever in a million years think you'd be standing here doing this right now? And he looked at me and he's like, hell no. I thought your mother would have killed me a long time ago.
You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
So you know it's possible.
Yeah.
And now you're doing it.
Yeah.
I hope so. I'm trying. I try everything in my power to use the word we, because it's not me. And again, everyone that's working for me is better than me.
Well, that's one of the things you learn
is,
one way. Within leadership, is that you can't make it on your own.
No.
It's all about how many people can you inspire and enroll into the vision. If you take care of the people, the business will take care of itself.
I think it's pretty safe to say that we're all honored to be in your presence, and obviously the cool vineyard itself.
No way around.
And we're beyond excited for you and the culture you've been building and will continue to build. Keep shining. Cheers, bro.
Cheers, you guys. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
What's kind of the legacy you want to leave behind?
I want to take as much as I can and pass it along. And it's not from me. It's never. It's from everyone that's taught me what I know. But to take that and pass that along to my boys, hopefully, if they can find their path that truly makes them happy and can make a living out of it, and I can help them get to that, then I think that's everything today.